Judith Favor is a person that has quite a history helping people. She has been a professor at Claremont. She has been a spiritual advisor, a pastor, a teacher. Her focus, this is what I got this from the webpage I'm developing for you, Judith. Her wonderful focus, and the focus of what we'll be talking about tonight, is being content. Something near and dear to my heart. I believe a lot of our current struggles in the world, people's anxiety, depression, a lot of suicides, other destruction of the fabric of society comes down to the fact that a lot of people don't know how to be content. They're not content, and being content is the secret to a very healthy, very beautiful life. And so, with no further ado, I would like to present Judith Favor and give her the floor. Let's give her a hand to bring her on.
Thank you, friends. I would invite you to have a pencil or a pen nearby and something to write on, or your keyboard nearby, because I'm not going to talk much, but I am going to invite you to do some writing. I have been writing since I could hold a pencil, writing for myself, and I've been guiding others in contemplative writing for decades, since the 70s. So what I've discovered is that gently guided writing in community is a very safe way to increase our contentment, to actually tend to any inner confusion or anything, discover hidden strengths. I guess you probably all know that because you're writers. So I'm going to focus actually on two new books that this one, Sabbath Economics, came out in December, and its companion, this is the mother book. The daughter book, 52 Weeks with Love and Money, is the companion journal. And I'll be using that one with some prompts tonight. So the focus is primarily on love and money. Everybody has a money story. Everybody has a love story. But when you think about your own, what kind of story? Is yours a tragic story, kind of a rags to riches story? Is yours a comedy of errors or other kinds of comedy? Is your love and money story a true crime struggle, between haves and have-nots? So how do we reach contentment with love and money? I'm going to invite you to do a little exploring with that. Tonight, I'll tell you little parts of my love money story, how I've reached this state of serenity or contentment, and invite you to write a little part of your love and money story as well. So that's become my mission at 81. After writing one novel and 6 self-published memoirs with different angles, and most recently collaborating with Rosie Alfaro on death row. She's been a friend of mine for 20 some years. We started as pen pals. I've helped Rosie write her money, love, crime, punishment memoir, and that's recently just been published as well. It's called Friending Rosie, Respect on Death Row. So I'm really committed these days to supporting people like us to write our own love and money memoirs. And that's what I'll be introducing. But first, I want to know what genre you're writing in these days. So I'm going to invite us to open the chat, but don't send anything yet. I want us all to do that together. So in the chat, do you know how to do that? To write the genre that you're working in right now. Just if you've got a title, put it in there. But are you working in fiction, nonfiction, poetry, sci-fi, romance? Whatever it is, just put it in. And then in a minute, I'll say ready, set, go, and invite you to enter. And then we'll see what we've got.
Sorry.
Okay, so can you hear me all right? I was told to turn up my volume. Okay, hope that helps. Okay,
That's
so
good now.
better? Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Okay, how about, okay, so I see Rusty's writing a Western, Assunta is writing memoir, Life is a Dream of God's. Pauline, poetry. Anita, Griselda, New in the Village, cozy mystery with magic realism, also poetry. Okay. So if you've just joined us, I think Linda and Bob have come back in just a moment. So just put in chat what genre you're writing in these days. I see Mike's writing memoir, Christian YA, young adult thriller, Christian nonfiction on the image of God. Oh, great topics. Well, what I'm writing these days is about giving $80 to 80 different people, mostly strangers, to celebrate my 80th birthday. So I don't know what genre we would call that. Creative nonfiction, I guess. And toward the end of our time, I'm going to ask you to record any new discoveries you're coming up with, any connections you might be discovering between your love life, your money life, and your contentment level. First, a writing prompt. And this one is actually my book, companion journal, has a prompt and a quote for every day of the year. And the one from yesterday when I was preparing for us today is a quote from my grandmother. She said, "Use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without." That was my family motto for practicing economy measures. So does your family have a motto about money? Take a couple minutes just to jot down anything you can remember hearing in your family. Any money mottos? I'll set my little trusty kitchen timer here for 2 minutes and just invite you to write any words of wisdom that you recall hearing from your family.
Do you want those in the chat, Judith, or just personal?
I didn't hear the question.
Do you want those in the chat or just for ourselves?
Oh, it's for yourself as well, but feel free to put it in chat if you'd like to. Since we've had a request for muting. If you're not the speaker, please mute. Anita's bandwidth is low and she gets knocked off of Zoom. So thanks for keeping the mute button on. So mottos about love and money. Here's a personal one. I'm reading now from page 7. The world is going to hell in a handbasket, predicted my grandfathers, Leo and Richard. I exhale noisily as I type those words, for the weary sighs of my ancestors are still lodged in my lungs, in my emotions. Thinking like grandfathers, they were both impoverished by the Great Depression. If we think like they did, we may also learn, that today's problems are too gigantic to be fixed, and we can be discouraged from getting our own financial house in order. But when I fall into the doleful line of thinking of my grandfathers, I notice myself sort of getting hopeless and shrugging my shoulders and thinking it's a mess, why even try? So family legacies of love and money can weigh us down or lift us up. So I want to invite you to consider, what are the stories you tell? What are the stories you tell about love and money? And the one I like to tell is about my grandmother, who was widowed early, because my grandfather died young, and she didn't have Social Security. It was before the government protected elders with Social Security. So my widowed grandmother scrambled to support her teenage kids, and she went to work as a cook at my school cafeteria. So my grandmother cooked my lunch every day at Rigler Elementary. And I learned a lot from her about being content with very little. So I'm going to invite you to do a little writing about the stories you've heard, the stories you tell. And some questions to help prompt you. And we'll write for a few minutes in just a bit. But what stories do you tell that reflect your family's beliefs and values and fears? What high points do you bring out? What low points do you leave out? And what stories do you tell colleagues about your journey with love and money? What stories do you save for intimate friends and partners? What lies do you tell about love and money? What lies do you tell maybe so often that they have kind of become truths? And what stories do you decline to tell anyone? What stories do you never tell, even to yourself? I'll give you an example of a story that my parents did not tell. My mother kept this secret all her life, and she died with it. My dad kept it until he was 79. And I asked him if I could interview him about his life and write up his life story as a gift for his 80th birthday. So he consented to be interviewed. We had many, many hours of long conversations. And in the course of that, I learned a secret. I learned that I'd been conceived in love. My parents loved each other deeply. And they were glad to be pregnant. I came along 2.5 years after they were married. My parents were renters. We were a working class family. My dad was a milkman. They wanted to welcome me, their firstborn child, into a comfortable home, but they lived in a rented duplex. And during Mom's pregnancy, Dad decided to build her and us a house. So he had men at work building a fine new house in Portland, Oregon. But his eyes got bigger than his bank account, and he added costly features. He added a full basement. He added central heating and some other extras. Big problem, his vision exceeded his resources, and he couldn't pay the contractors. And very soon after I was born, the bank foreclosed and my parents spiraled into bankruptcy. So as my mother breastfed me, I realized I was taking in mother's milk that was tainted with shame and humiliation. And even though they never told me that story until I was well into adulthood, I realized that my family's money troubles formed my small little soul. So I'm going to give you a few minutes, 7 minutes actually, to write some stepping stones. Just a quick word about what I mean by that. Stepping stones would be major markers on your life journey. The first stepping stone is I was born. I was born. So jot down I was born when or where, if you like. And then for the next few minutes, just sort of scan through the whole rest of your life between birth and now, your present age, jotting down little brief phrases, memorable moments. I was born and then what? And then what? And then what? So I'll be quiet for a few minutes and just hold you in loving thoughts and set the timer for 6 minutes. A simple list, short sentences or phrases. I was born, and then what? And then what? So that's an open-ended list. You might be finding more thoughts coming later, but what I like to suggest is to reread it quickly, reread your stepping stones and read them through the lens of looking for which periods in my life, was I contented? Enough love, enough money, enough meaning. So just read back through what you've written and say, where was the contentment in my life as I look back at it now, and put a little star there or an underline or something to mark those periods. And if there's something in your list of stepping stones that has a little discomfort to it, there's something incomplete or unfinished, again, make a little symbol there that suggests to you that I might want to come back here and spend a little more time reflecting on that period in my life. Maybe there's something there I need to learn, or that will be a help in the work that I'm writing, the memoir, the poetry, the fiction. So just kind of signal to yourself that, oh yeah, there's some, I think of gold mining, you know, there might be a little vein of gold in that ore on your page. So mark it for yourself in some way. And we'll have another writing session in a minute, but I want to interrupt to give you a little word about the honorable genre of list writing. I know lists don't have, they're not very sexy. You know, we think about my to-do lists and that's kind of ordinary stuff, but just a reminder, you know, the Torah is full of lists, 10 Commandments, the Christian Gospels, I mean, the Beatitudes, the fruit of the Spirit in the epistles, Buddhism, you know, the Eightfold Path, the Sufis chant 99 names of God. You know, that's a great list. Yoga Sutras, there are lists throughout all the world's religious literature. So I want to elevate. I'm a fan of list making for writers of all sorts as we call upon the power of lists to help us develop our own work, our creative work. So we're still focused on contentment. We're still focused on love and money as sources of either distress, you know, or pleasure, contentment, serenity. So let's write for another 7 minutes. And this time I want to shift the focus a bit, a larger context. The writings that have influenced you through the course of your life. Writings, the authors, the sources of writing that have given you important messages about how to conduct your life. Love, money, contentment. So just write without pause. I'll set the timer again for another 6 minutes and just list anything you can think of, you know, novels, films, songs, sacred teachings, images from Charles Dickens to My Fair Lady to on and on it goes. Just kind of let your memory lead you here through your life, saying, what are the sources of wisdom that I've learned from, been formed by? So just keep listing things. To question is the answer. I'm reading from page 19. I want to preface it by telling you that I talked to my son yesterday. Today is my son's 60th birthday. Can you believe it? Anyway, 60 years ago, I gave birth to my first child, and I'm so proud of him. He's reading something and he said to me, you know, Mom, I'd rather ask questions that can't be answered than have answers that can't be questioned. And I said, Michael, how'd you get so wise? That's fantastic. But I've always been fascinated with questions. So I'll read a little bit to you about that. And then I'll invite you to jot down some of the things, the questions you're asking. In 1970, in the parking lot of a Unitarian Universalist fellowship, I saw a bumper sticker that catalyzed me. It said, to question is the answer. That simple phrase awakened something in me, and it led me to Adrian Malat, the UU minister who had created that bumper sticker. He was a man of insatiable curiosity, and I adopted his motto as my own for the last 50 years. But not all questions are created equal. You probably know this. It's wise to be wary of people who pose tricky questions that are meant to force me into agreement. I had more than enough of people who ask loaded questions meant to trap me into compliance. But I was intrigued by scriptural questions. Yahweh. I love this. The first question in the Bible, the Creator asked the first couple in the first garden, "Where are you?" Great question. I ask it of myself all the time. Where are you? Where's your attention? The psalmist, another great question. Whither shall I go from thy spirit, or flee from thy presence? Jesus, who do you say I am? And what do you want me to do for you? Great questions. These are the kinds of questions that beckoned me into a much deeper relationship with the sacred. And Thomas Merton, great contemplative monk, each one of us is born into the world as a question for which old answers are not sufficient. So I've learned to trust these kinds of questions, the kind that provoke me to view life from different angles. I collect great questions and quotations the way some people collect baseball caps or China teacups. And I became a Quaker primarily because Quakers pose queries rather than espouse doctrines. So I invite you to take a few minutes just to dwell with questions, the role that questions play in your writing life. And again, I'll set the timer for just 5 minutes this time. And invite you to jot down, what are you wondering? What are you wondering right now? What kinds of questions are bubbling up from your depths? So just take 5 minutes just to sort of relax into the whole questioning mode and say, I'm wondering about what? Or I wish I knew what? So just 5 minutes. Jot down the questions that are coming to you in the silence. So we'll open it up for responses in just a bit. I want to give a couple of credits to writing teachers that I've been calling upon here tonight. Julia Cameron taught me to write just nonstop, morning pages, she called them. I still practice that every day. And Natalie Goldberg taught me about the power of the timed write, where you just set a timer and go, just write until the bell rings. So we call upon all kinds of different tools as writers, and I just want to bring those women into the circle as teachers. And probably for me, the greatest teacher of all is Ira Progoff, who came up with something called the intensive journal, a form of contemplative writing that I began learning from him in the early 70s. And I wrote my way, at that time, I was just a mom and wife, and I wrote my way into clarity that I was in fact called into ministry, and went to seminary and continued writing in the manner of Ira Progoff. And that led me out of parish ministry, and into my current work as a soul companion to pastors and teachers and chaplains. But it all happened on the page. It all happened through the kind of writing we've been doing here tonight, making lists, noticing questions, finding discoveries on the page that I didn't know before I wrote. And yes, there's a lot of not useful stuff on the page. That's why it's so important to reread what you got. Might just be venting for a while and getting stuff off your chest or off your heart. But to go back and reread it and say, where's the pulse beat? Where's the life, in what's on the page? And highlight that and lift that out and then nurture it like a new seedling. So my ears are open And we'll just, if you want to speak, either raise a hand up close to your camera so I can see it, or use the reactions button at the bottom of the chat, and then a yellow hand will go up, and I'll call your name and share discoveries, questions. What would you like to add to the circle tonight? It's also perfectly good etiquette to keep on writing, by the way. If you're not in the mood to chat and you've got something moving, follow that flow. You see Anita's hand, and then I lost her. There. Anita, yeah, there you are.
Would you like me to lower my hand as well?
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah, it's up to you.
Okay. I want to say that the morning pages for me have just been lifesavers, as well as a means of growth and comfort and sanity and craziness and creativity. And I've been doing morning pages since about, I don't know, a year or two after Julia Cameron started encouraging people to write them. And they've been really helpful for me in so many ways. And I appreciate the work that you've done. I know when I was also in ministry, including clinical chaplaincy in critical care and trauma work. And it would have been so good to have someone such as yourself at that time. But also, I think just on a day-to-day basis, we as humans need somebody who can help us hold up the mirror to ourselves. So thank you.
I just want to underline the power of listening to one another. And your writers group is a great venue for that. But someone just told me today that the new Harvard Health Letter has a whole study on the power of listening to increase your immune system, strengthen your immunity to disease and cognitive decline. So there's great power in listening to one another. What else are you discovering or wanting to affirm? Any to share writing practices with peers is really tickles me. Oh, there's somebody else that keeps morning pages. Yay! What are some of your other practices or disciplines that you might want to mention tonight? Assunta, I see your golden hand, and then Rusty will be next after Assunta. Unmute, hon.
Thank you, Judith. I'm sorry I jumped the gun and did some answers in the chat because I misunderstood and thought that's what you wanted us to do. And I'm coming down from a Zooming kind of a day, and I just zoomed my answers out there. And then I stopped. I particularly liked the list you had us made about tonight about who writers or social impact stories, music, etc. that has influenced me, because just making that list is like seeing my life flash before my eyes. Everything from Simon and Garfunkel to watching Jack Bauer on 24, and how you can't get it two different ends of the spectrum of me just in those two items right there. So it was revealing. It was revealing to me to make that list. And I suppose that in doing the list and in the stepping stones, and in the role of questions, the questions that I could write, they are just self-revealing. So, but you're using love and money and finding contentment in love and money. I'm just having a little trouble making that connection between that and, oh, hello, between that as a topic. Hey, baby, come on. It's bedtime for Bonzo here. I suppose you could stick any topic you wanted, not just love and money and contentment, and use these exercises to bring revelation to pretty much any topic. So unless I'm missing something, that's all that I'm connecting with your topic and these exercises today.
And sometimes the connections aren't obvious, and there may not be connections. But never underestimate the power of stirring up memories and then sleeping on it. So pay attention, by the way, if you're wakeful in the night, notice what's stirring and what's coming to consciousness. Because we're doing some kind of muddying the waters, if you will, and then letting them calm down and quiet. And then as the waters clear, especially as we go into sleep and as we come out of sleep, those are both particularly fruitful periods for awarenesses to come into clarity. Rusty, you've been so patient. You had your hand up. What would you like to share with us?
Am I next?
Rusty, you're next. Yeah.
Okay. Your voice kind of faded away, but it might be my connection. I was just smiling because we have fuzzy love, furry love right there in front of us. My connections, I'm very down to earth, and I'm very content in a lot of different ways. So I don't dig up angst. I don't dig up trouble if I don't have to. I like things even keel. The motto I live by, I wrote many years ago for my daughter, especially. And I said, on this ranch, we raise common sense, cultivate independence, and wrangle adversity. And she was a smart little gal, and my only child. So being out on the ranch, removed from everywhere, we're very remote. She had to figure life out pretty well. She had input, other friends were around. I made sure she was socialized. But in doing that, I also realized that raising a daughter was a lot less typical for me because I was remote and I didn't have the support system that I really wanted. But there again, I chose to be remote because I don't like the influence of other societies and cross-contamination, if you want to call it that. And so being realistic, I just wanted to share a short story you mentioned about what your contentment is, love and money. Well, my daughter was young, she was about 8, and she was very impressed by a teen model on the dry lake. We were driving by, and the model wore a very skimpy can't say the word tonight, leopard spot slip. And she was running along with the cameraman who was racing along with her, taking the pictures. And while we went by, my daughter was so enamored with that whole thing. She stared as we drove by, and she blurted out, "I want that dress. It's so pretty." And right there, I had to teach a lesson without teaching a lesson. So I explained to her that a person can be a billboard. And she looked at me like, "What? Do you want boys to want you or get to know you?" And she said, she had to think about that. She was probably quiet for a good 5 minutes or more. She thought that through. And by the time we got home, she said, "I guess that little gal is a billboard." And she says, "I don't want to be a billboard." Like, yes, I made my point. So I have a lot of other things to share, but then I take over and I have stories to tell. But I am a content person, and I'm on my second life. So everything is really super exciting to me because I nearly died in 78. So all of my time after 78 is bonus time. That's how I look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mike said that you usually close around 7. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and let's see what you advise. Shall we stay a few more minutes, or shall we bid each other good night? Turn off your mute button, Mike.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm okay, maybe 15 more minutes if that's okay with everyone else. I don't want anybody to feel like they were cut off.
Right.
So go ahead. Let's go about 15 more minutes, and we'll just keep our points to the point.
Great. So if you've already spoken, then you'll leave space for others, and anybody who hasn't spoken gets the floor. If you'd like, put your hand up.
I'll say something real quick. I was going back over my questions, and I noticed that 6 out of my 7 questions involve my family and things that my family are going through currently, and how I'm supposed to react to those things, and how I can be supportive and shore up my family members. I just didn't see that until I actually wrote the questions out and then went back over them and noticed. That's what's important to me. Okay, anyone else want to share?
Mike emphasized the word noticed. Did you notice he did that? He put it in capital letters. I noticed. So just want to invite any other noticings that are just taking shape right now.
I have never known us to be such a shy group.
Well, I might just make an observation. It could be interior work is going on. That's
true.
Not so much shyness as a kind of an honoring, of inner stirrings, and so it's perfectly okay to keep, to keep still and let the creative process work within you. Well, I think maybe in honor of that, that I would just bless you in your continuing discovery writing. Let's call it discovery writing, and let the discoveries continue to be compost for the stories, the poems, the creative work that you're all doing. So it's been a great honor for me to be with you, and I appreciate being invited as your Speakers Bureau guest tonight. We'll continue to cheer you on in your creative endeavors.
I'd like to make one more observation before we close. And I think we're all very thankful that we were here tonight. I know I am. Judith is one of our on-topic speakers, and very excited to have her as part of the Speakers Bureau. I just have to say, Judith, I don't know that I've ever seen a speaker get so much out of me personally in such a short amount of time. And if that's true for everybody here, then it's, 15 times multiply what I got out of this. And all of it original and all of it individual and all of it separate. My hat is off to you. This is quite an accomplishment tonight. And I want to thank you for that.
It's the work I love to do. So you make me happy by being part of it. I see
right.
up for Pauline, but I don't see Pauline's face. Pauline,
I think she's applauding.
oh, is that what it is?
That's applauding, yes.
All right, gotcha.
All right, and with that, we will call it a night. Thank you, Judith, and God bless you in your work and the things that you're doing for so many.
Yeah.
Mike,
Yeah.
could I ask you a question? Will this
yes.
be recorded so I could listen from the beginning?
Yes, I did record it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you again, Judith.
All right, good night, friends.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everyone.
Mike, how do we access the recording?
I'll be sending it to Joan. Joan puts them all on our YouTube channel. All the different things we record are on the YouTube channel for High Desert Writing Club.
Okay.
Rusty, did you have something real quick?
I was just noticing that Karen came on to the program and walked away, and I haven't seen her come back since. All we see is a blank screen. And she lives alone, and I'm a little worried now. Where is she?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll give her a call and make sure she's okay.
I don't have her numbers, but I'd appreciate that just to find out. Otherwise, have a good evening.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Good night.